My name is Elizabeth Bolin, and I'm a Programs Associate at Anita Borg, and I work on the academics team. So if you have any questions with our academics programs or anything GHC related or Women of Vision related, feel free to email me. Last year we did Google Hangouts with our GHC scholars, so we wanted to do the same thing for Women of Vision students this year. Barb G, our VP of Programs, is going to head this Hangout. She's going to give you an overview on Women of Vision and also provide you with some networking tips you can use. And then there's a Q&A app that you can use as well if you have any questions. We'll try to make that work and answer them if we have time. So I'm going to...
Hi, everyone. We're thrilled that you're going to be able to join us at Women of Vision. As Elizabeth said, last year we did a series of Google Hangouts for all the students that came to Grace Hopper and got really good feedback on how useful those sessions were. So we thought we'd try it with Women of Vision. I just want to give you a bit of an overview about the event itself. It's very different from Grace Hopper. It's not a conference. Women of Vision is our highest rated program. It's very inspirational. And it really got started because we found that women who were incredibly accomplished in technical fields were not getting the kind of recognition. And so it's really our inspirational program for recognizing incredible women leaders who are technologists. So unlike a conference where you'll go in and see a career fair and a mob of people moving around from program to program, this is really one gala event. So when you show up, you'll be in a reception, a general reception when you first get there, a great chance to meet a lot of people in the industry, men and women, but particularly a lot of senior women who are technologists for you to meet. And then we go in and we sit down and have a catered dinner and a program which includes a keynote and a number of winners of different kinds of awards. We're going to do some new things this year, which we've never done before. One of them is an entrepreneurial award. It's the first time we've really done recognition of women who are entrepreneurs. So that's pretty cool. And also the other thing we're debuting is the Student of Vision Award. We ask students to submit videos of their vision of what they see for women in technology and what they would like to do to build a different world. So we culled through all these video submissions and have 2 finalists, and we'll be looking at their videos at the event and voting on them live. So that'll be really fun. So what I wanted to do today was just give you a little bit of a primer on networking. So, you know, engineers aren't really famous for being social or able to overcome shyness in social situations. And we do know that one of the big assets in your career is your social network. And we also have research that shows that women have access to smaller social networks than men, and that actually can translate into your career effectiveness. So I want to give you a few tips. Actually, being a pretty shy engineer myself, I totally know what it's like to have to go in and work a big room. It's not something that I really love to do, but it is important to build your contacts. And Anita Borg programs are probably the best place, Women of Vision and Grace Hopper, to build your contacts, because what I found is it's a really welcoming community. It's a great place to test out your networking skills in a safe environment. And you'll meet some great people. So just want to give you a few tips and also entertain any questions you might have. We did this last year at before Grace Hopper, and I had many students come up to me during that conference and tell me how useful it was. So I'm hoping it'll be just as useful for you. So we're going to go to a little PowerPoint.
So excuse me for 1 minute. Okay, so they'll be able to see this.
Okay, great. And I just hit the space bar to
advance. Yeah, I can do a slideshow if you really want. And then, yeah, you can just do the arrow.
Okay, great. So I'll just give you a few networking tips. Networking 101. So what should you do everywhere you go? Network. I will tell you one thing. I actually have people who've told me that I'm really good at this. And I think the reason is because I don't intentionally go out and meet with people just because that's what I'm supposed to do. So above all else, be your genuine self. Be who you really are, and don't feel like you have to go shake everybody's hand who you see who might look important. Just be willing to extend yourself to people who look interesting and friendly. So what is networking? It's really making connections and using them wisely. So I'll talk a little bit more about this. There are people who just think that the goal is to have your Facebook friends or your Rolodex be as big as possible. That's not necessarily true in my experience. It's really being very wise about who you cultivate as a connection and using them wisely. And the key word there is using them. In other words, don't use people. It's usually a two-way street. There's a number of reasons why you want to do networking. It makes you known, it makes your work known. A lot of times what we find is women are doing really great work, and it's kind of not in our nature to grandstand or publicize. You don't, I know for me, I don't culturally feel comfortable doing a lot of grandstanding, but I do make a lot of private connections and people get to know my work that way. So you should think about ways for you to get your work known that's comfortable for you. The other thing is, we're not all experts in everything, so it's a really great way to get some new ideas. If you're doing research, for example, you may want to talk to people who are in your area that might have a new way of thinking about your research. You can get feedback on your work. You can talk to people about an idea you have for a product, and you might find new collaborators. And so, when you're putting a team together or you're trying to get something done, in my experience, you're going to tend to go to people you know. You're not going to put a job description out for someone to work with you on a project. You're going to, over time, get to know people that you can depend on and whose thinking you trust. So there's a lot of good reasons for networking. It's not just schmooze because it's a good thing to do. You can get job interviews. It's actually true that many jobs are gotten through people you know. That's how I got the job at ABI. Even after 30, 40 years of work experience, it was through somebody who knew me. You can get invited to be on talks or be on panels, serve on committees. It's especially in the technical field, it's not just what you do at your company, but also what people in the industry know about your work. Depending on the career you decide to choose, it may be more or less important to be known externally. It might be more or less important to have patents. You may need letters of recommendation more often. And these are all things that networking can get you. And it is a richer professional life. And I have found that sometimes I network with just the purpose of broadening the people in my circle, not even with an intention in mind of what I need them to do. And again, really, really effective networking is not just looking for what people can do for you, but building a circle of folks who can help each other. So what's it not? It's really not a substitute for quality work. I mean, you always should do good quality work. It's also, I think I mentioned this, it's not using people or a one-way street. There are people who I've known in my past life working in the tech field who have extended LinkedIn invitations to me that I have actually not responded to. I'm thinking in one case, there's a very successful engineering VP who I knew as a young person. We worked at the same company together, and over the years, I found that I only heard from him when he needed something from me, and when he needed something from me, it was always like a fire drill. He needed it immediately. And by the same token, I've been in companies with him where I've asked for help from him and not even gotten responded to on an email. So even though he's got a very important title, probably knows a lot of people that'd be good for me to know, blah, 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 I haven't accepted his invitation because I have felt used. So you want to be really mindful of how you approach people and how you interact and transact with them. And it's just as important to figure out what you can offer somebody in return for what they can offer you. And again, if it's authentic and genuine, it will work. Um, who should you network with? Everyone. There's you can actually test. Maybe you don't want to do this in a high pressure situation at work or at the university, but do it with your family, do it with friends, do it at parties where you meet people through people you know. But in your extended network, you might have professors, you could have friends, bosses. It's always nice to, if you have a boss and you move on to another job, drop them a line once in a while, tell them how you're doing. And then there are people that are outside of your kind of your natural extended network. Alumni groups from universities are very nice, and they tend to be a non-hostile audience because alumni tend to want to help other people who went to their school, and then going to conferences and events. And again, what I have found is that both at Grace Hopper Celebration as well as Women of Vision, people are very welcoming. So it's a really easy place to test and try out networking skills. You're not going to run into anybody who will reject you. So just a couple practical tips. Prepare how you would introduce yourself to people. What you don't want to do, and what I find all of us who are engineers, we tend to use like way more words than we need to. So it's a good way to get ready on how you want to present yourself in a very concise way. So you may say, my name's Barb and I'm a student here, and I'm really interested in exploring going into such and such a field. Might you know about it? Something very short that defines who you are, kind of places where you are in the universe. I'm a college student, I go to such and such, I'm studying this. Or you could ask, one thing I find is then asking someone a question, how did you come to this event, is really welcoming, because what you're going to find is actually most people you approach are just as shy as you might feel. They just, we just all fake it when we go to these social events. So if you actually have a real need, like let's say you're doing some research and you really need some more people in your study, you could say, I'm doing a study on such and such and I could really use some others, and you'll find people will open their network to you. So just before the event, think through, the kind of people that you'd like to meet and what are the things that someone can help you with, and be ready to explain it in a very concise manner. Especially at an event like Women of Vision, you're going to make contacts, and it's unlikely that every person will have a long discussion with you. It's going to be pretty quick. You want to have just the opportunity to tell them who you are, make an impression on them because you are so concise and articulate about who you are, and give them a card. And we'll talk a little bit about the cards later. So before, set some goals, who will be there that you want to meet. This particular crowd is pretty high octane. What you will find is it's a banquet room with about 90 tables, many of them from partner companies who work with us. Many companies use this event as a retention tool to reward senior technical women in their company who they want to show that they value. And so a lot of times what you'll see at these tables is the chief technology officers surrounded by, the top 10 women engineers at their company. So this is the kind of event where there's going to be a lot of chief technology officers, some CEOs, many senior technical women, great people to meet. So you want to just think a little bit about what kind of people you want to meet and what do you want to walk away with. We will have table assignments by companies. So if there are particular companies you're interested in, feel free to go up and introduce yourself to someone at that table. Seek out people through their name badges at the reception before the dinner. Lots of ways. And don't feel like you've just totally failed if you didn't check off your list. I actually, to be honest, I don't do this much prepping when I go to networking events, but some of you may have real goals that you have. So what do you want to do at the event? Make sure your badge is visible, speak to people, smile, don't just stand there. We're gonna, for the first time, actually have a formal ability for the audience to meet with the speakers and award winners after the dinner. So you'll have, if you have questions for some of the people who spoke, you can use that opportunity. You can talk to the person sitting next to you. One of the other great things about being a student of Vision is you get to meet other students from other companies, other colleges. One of the things that people who are in corporations tell us is one of the big advantages to coming to an ABI event is they get to meet other people in the industry in other companies. So this is a chance to really broaden your network. I say bring business cards. You can go to an office supply store and get Avery, print your own cards. They're quite nice. Go to Kinko's, go to UPS, but have a way for people to have your contact information. Because if you meet someone and they're really impressed by you and they really want to help you out, they're just going to want an easy way to contact you. And you don't really want to waste their time asking them if you could write your information on the back of their card or any of that. If it's appropriate, make lunch or dinner plans. If you find someone spends a lot of time with you, there's nothing wrong with saying, would you be open or available to meet with me for lunch sometime and let me tap your brain? Most people are happy to help others, but use your judgment. This isn't something, you don't ask someone you've just met who's talked to you for 2 seconds, can we have dinner? Participate in hall talk. A lot of stuff happens in the hall. And you can also get people to introduce you to others. So I actually am pretty shy. Most people won't believe that, but a lot of times I will find myself in one-on-one conversations. I'm not really comfortable like working the room and making sure I'm schmooze a lot, but I'll find someone who's really interesting and we talk about something I'm doing. And a lot of times they will offer to introduce me to someone who could be useful in what I'm doing. So there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. You don't have to be the person who addresses every person that's going to be useful to you. But I'm horrible at small talk. Okay, I actually get this. I hate small talk, but it is a skill. And one thing that I have found, if all else fails, you talk about the weather, right? But one thing that I have found is people actually really like being asked about themselves. So you don't have to sort of make up a topic. I will ask folks, where did you study, or how long have you been in California? Do you have kids? What do you find about the schools? And just have some general questions that you are genuinely interested in learning about a person. So it's really about learning about who this person is that you're talking to. And I find that leads to a lot of very genuine conversation. And it's not small talk. And I would venture to say that small talk's pretty exhausting for most people. None of us really likes it. What you don't want to do, well, obviously don't hide out or only hang around with your friends. There are some programs we do where we actually do table assignments. Even in New York, you think people are really self-assured. And we would have networking receptions and people would only hang out with the people from their company, and that sort of defeated the purpose. And we actually assigned tables and did some icebreakers in it, and it made a huge difference because the next time we had a networking reception, we could see people having made friends at our reception and not hanging out with just their company. Don't hide behind your computer. I'm hoping you're not going to have your smartphone on or your computer during this event. And don't put too much stock in a single short conversation. So a lot of times, you'll have a really good connection somewhere and then be really disappointed if the person doesn't follow up with you. And don't take that personally. That's pretty normal. Networking. I remember once at a company that I used to be in a marketing department, and we got trained to go to a trade show. and they were training us on how to work a booth and how to make quick connections and get people, the goal is to get their business card because they're a lead. And this trainer said to us, this is not like gourmet dinner, this is barbecue. You put it on the grill, you take it off. It's really fast. And so networking has a little bit of that barbecue vibe. You're not going to have time to have a really long, in-depth conversation with 15 people. Don't hang on to a conversation for too long. This is where it's really important to sense the cues that you get from people. And what you don't want to do is dominate them and hold on to them, especially if it's somebody who is sought after and you see people lining up to meet with them. You want to do just enough so that they get to know who you are, what you're doing, and if you get a card into their hands, that's great, but then move on. Don't dominate if you get someone's attention. If you see a private or a really heavy technical conversation, don't interrupt. So again, these are just basic social skills of watching people and not imposing yourself if they're heavily into some kind of conversation. Be careful about being overly negative and critical. I know when I meet somebody, if all they do is spend the small amount of time they have with me complaining about their company or about their boss or the state of women in technology, it's not somebody I'm likely gonna go out of my way to stay in touch with. So be careful. It doesn't mean don't be Pollyanna and be phony and everything's perfect, but just be a little bit mindful of that and don't get discouraged. Again, this is like the trade booth. It's fast food barbecue, and maybe one out of the 20 people you meet might turn into something. After the event, so if you meet people at the event, do some follow-up. There's nothing actually more impressive for me, especially when I meet students who I know are new at this, to get an email from them after the event, for them to remind me, we talked about such and such. If it's someone you felt comfortable with, ask if they would be willing to meet for coffee or for lunch, and definitely send a LinkedIn invitation. Some people will send Facebook. I tend to be very, very careful in keeping my personal life separate from my professional life. So I will accept LinkedIn invitations, but I don't often accept Facebook invitations. The other thing too is I've noticed that quite a few people will send me LinkedIn or Facebook requests and I've never met them. And that to me is just odd. Like, how would you put someone in your network who you've never even met? So if you met somebody at Women of Vision and you send them a LinkedIn invitation, don't send them that generic one that says, I'd like to connect with you. Send them a little note that says, we met at the Women of Vision and I found your comments to be really helpful about such and such, and personalize it so they do remember where they met you. You can follow people on Twitter, read their blogs. So there's a number of ways to plan your follow-up. I find, even though people always tell me how big my network is and I'm really good at networking, that I actually don't go for big numbers. I think it's much better to have made 2 contacts that are actually very genuine and that I have time to follow up on than 20 people who have my card. So that's up to you. It's everybody has a different style and approach to networking. So do what is most true to who you are. 4 steps to building a fabulous network. Just continue to build your savviness around networking and your own way of doing it. I have to admit, I've never had a strategic networking plan. Pretty much as far as I got was early in my career. I just thought, my mom said to me, my dream for you is to be able to relate to the widest group of people as possible. That was pretty much it. But I really took that to heart and found that even without writing down a strategic networking plan, I've never had a strategic networking plan, that I had that intention in my head and that I would naturally seek out people who were of different socioeconomic class than me, of different race, of different backgrounds. And it really created a very rich life to have a community of people from all different walks of life. So think about what, don't think only in terms of how to advance your career, but how do you want to create richness in your life? What are the kinds of people that would make it really interesting for you when you look at your friends? And introduce yourself with a memorable personal brand. So there is this whole set of leadership skills around building your personal brand. Personally, I've not studied it. But if you're going to Grace Hopper, and I think in the next year we are likely to make this kind of training available online, but think about what you want to be known for. So what is the thing that you're really great at, and how can people sort of brand you? And then you'll make a difference with lifelong relationships. Having a career for many decades, I can say right now that if there's any project that needs resources or access to people, I can pretty much get to any industry and solve any problem. So it's really, the network I have has been really, really fulfilling in being able to put together projects that actually make a difference in the world, not just advance my career. And that's pretty much it. We will open this up for any questions you might have.
Let me see if I can figure out the Q&A. So, give me a minute, please.
So some of you might be wondering what to wear. That's a common question. Don't wear jeans and a t-shirt. This is sort of what we call business casual. There are some people who really dress up. So it's probably the fanciest thing we do. You don't have to wear a fancy dress or fancy, but be a bit polished.
So we have the Q&A app open. I don't see any questions that you've submitted. If you don't see the Q&A app, you can ask on the Google Plus. You should be able to ask someone, but we have it open, so maybe there are just no questions. There are 8 viewers there, so.
Great. Well, if there aren't any questions, we'll see you Thursday. Make sure you come and introduce yourself to Elizabeth and myself and Roshni, who's also part of the academic team. And if there are people you want to meet and you're a little bit shy, ask us for help.
Yeah.
We'll help you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much.
See you Thursday.